Hey, welcome to the Contractor Commute. We are here talking today about why good guys fail. We talk about it frequently, but 4 out of 5 contractor businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. And so you got great builders, great contractors, great construction pros that end up going out of business. And a lot of times it's not the quality of their work that sends them out, it's other things. And so we're going to talk.
Sometimes it can be the quality.
That's true, yeah. There are bad guys that fail too. You could be terrible at what you do. That's another episode. Yeah. Hey, but if you're good at what you do, that doesn't mean you're automatically going to have a great business. And so we're going to talk about a few things. But one thing we want to start out with is just talking about this concept of expectations. I know it's something we've talked about in the past, but about having and setting the right expectations for yourself, for your customers, and making sure you balance those things to create a business that works. So give us some thoughts, Ben, on what you see with expectations and some initial thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, my first introduction to business, you just assume that you're good at what you do, you're going to be amazing. So I think just having the understanding that you can fail and still have so many other things aligned is really kind of the scary thing to think about in business. Just to make some assumptions. So you're honest, you're fair with people, you're skilled at what you do, you're hardworking, and so it's like, what could go wrong?
Yeah, you're a good guy.
Yeah, right. You're a good guy, so it should be a success. So understanding some of these factors, and I think when you go into a situation, any situation in life, we all have expectations of what should happen. Mm-hmm. You buy a new vehicle. I just bought a vehicle. It's like I have certain expectations of what that experience should be like, and if it's better than expected, wow, amazing. Yeah. If it's not that, we're ticked off.
Yeah.
It's like somebody failed us. And so we have expectations of ourselves in business. And I think that's one of the things that we need to understand. Building a brand, building a business, what things are we awesome at that we can really be able to deliver on what we're promising?
Yeah. Expectations of yourself for your customers. I think somebody told me once, like all conflict is rooted in unmet expectations. Yeah. So whether it's between you and a product like your car, or you and another person like your customer, or like even your spouse, right? Yeah. If I expect you to do something and you don't do it, conflict has now entered the room, right? Or the other way around, if I didn't expect you to do something and you did it, it's like, well, I didn't see that coming, right? And that's where I get offended. That's where I get hurt. That's where I get frustrated at you. Or that's where discouragement can creep in, especially as being a leader or a business owner. It's a vulnerable spot where it's easy to feel like a failure. It's easy to have doubt creep in, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
It comes down to a lot of just keeping your business in a realm that you can manage the expectations. I guess what I mean by that is if you're just amazing at one particular thing, and people keep asking you to do other things, you're a deck builder, you're a window installer, whatever you do, and you're just awesome at that. You build the best dang decks anyone's ever seen.
That's a business. Someone's going to name their business right
best dang decks.
I've been waiting for a company name, best dang decks.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I hope that guy's name
Two guys. Dan builds the best dang decks. Or 2 men in a truck. Yeah, hey, you're welcome, whoever's. Grab that one. Or you're the window guy, Yep. It's just you install windows. You're a pro at it. You can grow into that. But one of the things that you have in that space is proven ability to do something really well. And as soon as you branch out into an area where you don't have that proven ability, suddenly you open yourself up to all kinds of things that you didn't know, that you made assumptions that could be wrong. Mm-hmm. And when you branch off from something that you're already really good at, you're the window guy. You install windows, and now you add on saying, now we're going to install doors. It's like, well, you're very similar. If you go from windows and say, now we're going to go ahead and, do drywall taping, it's like, or drywall hanging and taping, they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keeping your business focused, not getting distracted by something. I think it's very tempting to say, I'm going to be a handyman and go into all these different categories of work, and I can be really awesome at it. I'll charge $50 an hour. And that might be fine. You might be a handy guy. You're making $50 an hour, but that's where you're stuck. You're not training anybody else to be a handyman.
That's true. Yeah.
But you're not scaling handyman services.
Yeah.
In the traditional way that everyone looks at a handyman of being able to do anything in their house. They change the faucet. They're going to go fix a wall patch. They're going to do whatever else. It's a very tough business to scale.
Yeah. I think you go back to the expectations and that, like, a lot of times if you can set healthy expectations for your customer when you're great at something. And I think if you differentiate in this space when you do what you said you're going to do, you do a good job, you do it on time, on budget, that's very few people. But so you're going to get people who are asking you to expand your scope, to say, hey, since you did that, now, can I expect you, Dan's dang good decks, to go build me some windows? And I think there's some ego attached to that. Was like, well, yeah,
Right. Yeah, right.
How hard can it be?
Right. Yeah.
And I think so. But then now you're setting expectations for your customer that maybe you can't meet.
Yep.
Talk to us about that concept with customers and how do you communicate? How do you set the right expectations with your customers?
Yeah, and I think, can you manage things as well? There's a certain level of complexity that any one of us can manage, and then there's something you take it a little bit further than that. And now we're in a realm that we're having difficulty managing, and so that's where we get in trouble. When we don't understand that ahead of time, we're not prepared to be able to say no to somebody and say, you know what, this is really outside of our scope, because we want to be, and it takes the self-discipline to be able to tell somebody no. I mean, I don't like telling people no.
Right.
I mean, somebody comes along, like you talked about the ego.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, and sometimes we're really good at something, but we're not quick at it. Like I mud drywall.
Yeah.
But do I want to mud drywall, and am I going to make good money doing it? No.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to do it, and I'm not, I'm not, fast at it enough where I can make money doing it.
Right.
Where I've seen some guys, I mean, they just bomb out a whole house in a day, and you're like, wow, I mean, that guy's making money because he's in and out, he knows what he's doing, he's got set up, he's got all the equipment for it.
Yep.
It's like, so what space do you have that? You got the equipment, you have the knowledge, you have the team, and you can scale it. It's like, okay, so you're set up to go now.
That's
and
your
now
niche.
Yeah, right.
That's
so
what we
now
do. You can be great at it. If you have those things, you could be the best there is at that.
Yeah.
Then
we get into the customer.
Yeah.
So, we were amazing until we came. I mean, we had customers.
Yeah.
So there's some really key things dealing with customers, and I think customers have expectations we need to manage, and people come to us with certain expectations, and it's very easy to just say yep when they start going through the list of things, particularly pre-sale. We want that job. We think we do.
Right.
Like we've talked about before in this podcast, where there's sometimes you can stay at home and make better money.
Yeah.
Less frustration.
Yeah.
So you want the right customers, and so one of the things we talk about with budget, right? I mean, somebody comes to you, they have their idea of what something should cost in their head, and they say, we want to remodel our kitchen, we want to spend $25,000. If you want a nice kitchen, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, cabinets you can spend $10,000 on.
Yeah.
So is that, then again, maybe you're the guy that says, I'm going to go find out these cheap cabinets that cost me $2,500, or box cabinets, we put them together. That's our space. Like we build the cheap kitchen.
Yeah.
Somebody else approaches you, says, I want a high-end kitchen. That's not your space. Mm-hmm. If you're in the high-end kitchen and you build those fast, easy apartment building kitchens, like, well, that's our space.
Yeah.
So making sure they're clear on that.
Yeah.
But there's something more to that, right? Because we talked about this before with the whole customer expectation with the budget. If they're basically saying to you, I don't care about you, I want me first, I want the cheapest price. I had one person tell me one time, we want a quote for this job, but treat us like we were your grandparents.
Yeah.
It's like, well, my grandmother's actually quite well-to-do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So the price goes up.
Hey, think about even like that. Like expectations matter. Like, what is a high-end kitchen? Because what you think is high-end and what I think is high-end could be totally different. Right. Like how you treat your grandmother could be different than how I treat my grandmother. So there's implied expectations if we're on the same page. But if you keep it loose like that and not bring it in definition, you're setting yourself up to not meet the expectations of your customer. Yep. Or the other way around, you might find out that your customer's got crazy expectations that are wildly unrealistic, but you've already said yes to the job.
So maybe getting into specifics is going to be really key there. Specifications are really helpful. I know a lot of architects will build those and attach those as a part of your whole package. They're going to give you plans and specifications, so read those things. I mean, and if some of those sheets have been helpful to me as well when I've been handed them by an architect in jobs that don't have a spec sheet, then you're having to develop some of that, of saying, okay, well, how great is that tile install?
Yeah.
Is it $30 square foot marble, or is it, $150 porcelain?
We talked about knowing what and doing jobs that you've proven you can do, not just what you think you can do, and then and almost you shopping your customer as much as they're shopping you, and finding out, do we have a mutually agreed upon set of expectations for each other? What types of customers should you walk away from, and do you have any examples of that?
Lots of examples of customers to walk away from. And I have examples of times where we're trying to do the right thing by the customer. We're trying to be fair and honest with them, and they're just very easily excited. The emotional stability is not there. They have it's them first, the me first kind of mindset that the customer has. So everything's about them. And, so as soon as you get any hint of that, you're just saying, you know what, we're not a great fit. I mean, you just have to just cut your losses before you even get that job sold. I mean, we've had moments like that where it's just, okay, well, this one's not for us. And it comes out in that budget discussion, timeline discussion. We're like, we need this done next week. And when we did a remodel for, what we won't say.
Protect the innocent.
Right. Or the guilty in this case. We did a project where they had an expectation of getting it done in a week because they had, it was a commercial project. They wanted to use the building a week later. And we committed. We said, yeah, we'll try to make that happen. Well, Saturday night they came along and they said, why is it not done yet? We said, well, I thought it was, Sunday afternoon you needed it. Well, we're setting up tonight. And I'm thinking to myself, we are busting our nuts trying to get this thing done. Yeah. I mean, we're just really going after it, trying to, like round the clock. Yeah. Nobody's saying thank you. They could care less. The expectation was get it done by, the weekend. Mm-hmm. And so here we are, my whole crew is stressed. They're working around the clock. There wasn't even any motivation to it. Why did we even set that expectation? We should have just said, can you get it done in a week? No.
Right.
And we need 3. You need another space. Use the other building until we get done with this project. We did all kinds of upgrades for them they never appreciated. We did, so we bent over backwards. And we thought we were doing this amazing job, but nobody appreciates that. I mean, they really will never appreciate that. I've had some of the customers I've devoted the most attention to, the most of my personal time and effort to, have been some of the worst customers.
Yeah. I think, if there's a way to see that before it happens, it probably is in clarifying of...
Well, here's what happens, Drew. The beginning of that discussion, you start talking expectations, and if you have the firm belief as in you as a company, you know what you do, mm-hmm. you know what you're good at, yep. you know what you can deliver and what you can't deliver, and you're going to really pad that even with the customer and say, hey, listen, this is what we're good at. You set realistic expectations. You give margin to yourself so you can meet those expectations. And if somebody says, nah, I'm not interested in, fantastic. You saved yourself a headache.
Right.
You eliminated a customer you don't want to work for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you got to we talk about having a no and having a yes.
Yes.
And it's
I'm sorry.
Yes and no.
Right. Well, yeah, you frame your no as a yes, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you have to be able to say no to make way for your yes. Because if you say yes to everything and you never say no, then you are saying yes to everything every time, and you're going to find yourself out of your niche, out of your strength, out of what you're good at.
Is that niche or niche?
I'm a niche guy, but you're classier than me, so you might go niche.
Yeah, I was introduced by that where I had a designer, he would call everything a niche. Over there, we're going to have a niche. And I was like, is he saying that wrong? Yeah. Or is he French?
Yeah. Niche, I think is right. Yeah. But I think if you say yes and you don't have any no's, right, you're going to find yourself out of your lane. And then that you're likely to get behind, and that is a reason why good guys end up failing, is because they can do good work, but now haven't set clear expectations, said too many yeses, haven't said any nos, and now they're behind, late, and then you fall kind of in that category with the classic contractor who's doesn't answer the phone, can't keep up with the business, is not sure how much money he's making here or there because they're spread too thin.
Yep, exactly right. And now the opposite of that is the guy that comes in and says, he understands where he's at in his business, knows what he can deliver on, and then he comes along and gets a project. He's setting those expectations to the client. He's thinking to himself, that's a 1-week job. And he tells the customer, you know what, I think that could be a month-long project. His 1-week job turned into a 2-week job. He's twice what he thought he could do. He delivers in 2 weeks. To the customer, he's 2 weeks ahead of schedule. He's the absolute genius.
Right.
The customer's like, wow, you said a month and you're 2 weeks. His internal schedule, he's twice as long as he thought it'd take.
Right.
And I mean, think about our industry.
Yeah.
Everything takes longer than you think it's going to take.
Especially now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. You can't get a hold of materials, can't get whatever else. So you think about like the window installer. Windows take 3 months to get. He tells the customer 6 months. They come in 4.5 months. Genius.
Yeah.
So same thing with budgets. When you're communicating clearly, saying, we don't really understand what this element's going to cost. Let's open up some walls. Let's see what's happening there. We're going to be fair with you. We're going to communicate exactly what things are going to, as they go along, how things progress. You're setting an expectation of that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
If you want to be the guy who gets stuck with it at the end of the job with all the unknowns and everything else, and you're paying for it out of your own pocket, then you're the guy that comes in front and says, yeah, that's going to cost $10,000 flat.
Yeah. Sounds good up front, but you just set an expectation, you know. And I think, again, going back to kind of where we started this, which is, once it's an unmet, that's when conflict happens. That's when disappointment happens. That's when offense happens between you and your customer. And that's when the headache of the job comes in. And it started with, hey, what did I expect you to do in the beginning? And what do you expect of me? And how do I make sure we meet and exceed those expectations every time?
And we can really think about the customer in a negative light. Like, this is the worst customer we ever dealt with before. But did we make that customer the worst customer we ever dealt with before by how we introduced ourselves, how we sold ourselves? Mm-hmm. We came along, we are the absolute, God's gift to humanity.
My website looks amazing.
Yeah, right. And we said, we're going to deliver this incredible experience in 3 weeks. We always clean up after ourselves. We always prompt. We're always there when we say we're going to be there.
No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Next thing you know, this customer points to the one time when you're like, you said 8 o'clock. It's 10:30. What happened? And you're thinking, I got up at 5 this morning. I packed my truck. Went to Home Depot or whatever. Went to Harry Cooper. Got all the supplies together. You're busting your, just after it since 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Customer doesn't see any of that.
No. Yeah.
And so now you're late, as opposed to saying, you know what? Tomorrow we got to get a supply run in the morning. We got some stuff to do in the shop. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit of paperwork. I'm not sure exactly how long that's going to take. We're going to be there sometime tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. So we set expectations. I think we talked about how to move yourself, knowing what you can do, what you can't do, being real with yourself about what's realistic. Understand your lane, understand your niche or niche, as it were, and sticking in that space, resisting the urge and the ego to say yes to every job, making sure you say no when you need to. And that second wing of setting expectations, not just with yourself, with your customer, making sure that you're both on the same page. I think communication solves a lot of those things. And I think that question you asked at the end too, right? If I got a tough customer, you got to look in the mirror before you look at them. Hey, did I create that through my own expectations or my level of communications with them?
And there are people that you hopefully weed out at the beginning of the project as well when you have something that kind of stands out like a red flag. You're thinking, and we had a slight disappointment on something and they're just all over it.
Yeah.
One of the best things I ever heard in my life was when you create almost a negative expectation in certain stages of a job. If you're a remodeler, you pay attention. Because this was the best advice I ever got. That guy said, you know what? You set negative expectations because it's dirty, it's messy, people's houses are going to... the best care you can do, you can try to protect their stuff, but there's going to be dust, there's going to be dirt, there's going to be materials you can't lay your hands on when you want to. And so when you set that expectation of the person right up front saying, you know what? We're remodeling. Or, if you're building a new house, it's probably similar. Same thing we're talking about. It's particularly acute when you're in somebody's space.
Yeah.
But even a new build, you're saying, this is the expectation, or even, commercial properties as well, saying, things are going to be rough. You might hate me right in the middle of this thing, but here's what we can deliver. We're consistent with our result. At the end product, people love it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our very best to manage things in the middle of it, because a lot of times the customer's new to the process. They don't understand how this usually should work.
Yeah.
And so when you let them know, saying, remodeling's dusty, remodeling's dirty, it's noisy.
Like a bomb went off in your house.
Yeah. Right. And you tell them what measures you take that are realistic and you've proven.
Yeah.
You're saying, you know what, we're going to put floor coverings down. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
That's one way we try to protect. We put up plastic barriers. They're not perfect, but that's one thing we try to do. We try cleaning up at the end of the day. That's tough to do. You got different people, different schedules. They got lives to live. We try doing our best there. And then that way people are like, you know what, okay, they had an off day today. They're braced for it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
End of the day, they're saying, you know what, that's what it is. That's what remodeling is like.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, wow, did they let me down?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are great examples, and a little communication goes a long way.
But the negative expectation, I thought, wow, I never heard of that before. You always put things in a positive as a builder. Yeah, we're amazing. You never said a negative. But this guy would go deliberately in there and say, you might hate me in the middle of this job.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah.
And then they would.
Right. And then,
when he'd start,
he told me that's what happened, and here we are, hating you. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's like the better for worse till death do us part. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe not a little extreme there. You know what I mean? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. I appreciate the time today, talking through again why good guys fail. There's a lot of great workers do great work that can fail, but taking that piece of, hey, what are your expectations up front? Make way for your gift, make way for your ability, your capability, and your skill set to do great business by setting the right expectations and make sure you don't go off the rails unnecessarily simply because of unmet expectations. So, Ben, appreciate the time, insight.
So true, Drew, and this has been fun. One final thought would be that there's so many other reasons why good guys fail.
Yeah.
This is one aspect of it. We're going to have fun exploring some other things as well in the future.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. That's this episode of the Contractor Commute. We'll catch you next time.